things are working for me. Things are ramping up. You know, things aren't going as quickly as I'd like them to, but I'm seeing success. You know, if I wasn't seeing success, I wouldn't be continuing to do this. Obviously, I want more, bigger, better, faster, but I am where I am today, and I just have to recognize that, you know, my journey is progressing as it's supposed to, and just taking it one day at a time, I guess. There wasn't really ever like a decision that I was gonna be in fashion. It's literally just what I do.
Well, Bree has a lot going for her. She understands what goes into constructing a garment. She's focused and driven, tenacious. She's a talented designer.
Everyone tells me that I'm super talented. I have the skills, I have the vision, I have the passion. People are recognizing me, but the biggest gap that's been throughout the entire business is sales. And it's just, I don't know what I'm doing wrong.
It's tough. But it's just getting into those doors, getting those sales. I really founded the FBI out of a realization that creative designers need more than just understanding how to design a garment, that they needed to understand how to do the business development. You know, it's a matter of trying to build it so that it's going to work for you, Brie.
I left high school a year early to go to college. And that was the year that I kind of started taking like formal fashion classes. So I was 17, I took a few sewing classes, a few just fashion industry classes. Then I transferred schools and decided that I was going to be a fashion major. Then did a year in Italy, graduated, got my bachelor's degree, decided that I, at the age of 20, was not ready to be an adult and figure things out yet. So did what any, good 20-year-old does and went back to school. Went back to Italy, enrolled in my master's and got my master's diploma, and then moved back to the States after that. The feedback I get from women that wear my clothes is that they definitely feel empowered and they feel comfortable and they feel like their true persona is able to come through the clothes, and that the clothes don't necessarily define them, but that the clothes kind of support or lend to who they are. The woman walks in the room and it's not that they see her or that they see the clothes, but they see the whole package, and it's kind of all cohesive and it all just works together. Tomorrow I will be debuting my newest feminine luxury fashion collection to hopefully about 100 people. Preparing for my own solo show is a little bit of a fiasco. Doing the marketing for it, sending out invitations, just prepping everything for tomorrow. We'll be prepping the stands that the girls will be on, modeling. Lots to do. For this one I had to pull together shoes, jewelry, handbags, having hair and makeup done, getting models. We got cookies, cupcakes, chocolates, alcohol. I mean, it's a lot of work.
I'm in the garment industry. I've been a wholesale sales rep for about 35 years now. We're sales agents and liaisons between the designer and the retail establishment.
We are brand ambassadors, we are salespeople, we are merchandisers, we are the second line of defense in design. But what we are obligated to do is get the product into the best stores we can get them into.
We make our decisions about the types of lines that we carry in our showroom based on some pretty specific criteria. The first one being creativity.
What I do with young emerging designers very often, especially if I don't feel that they are ready for market in a showroom, is I ask them to go into the target stores that they would like to see their product in and actually show the product themselves.
Far left. Hey, number one's coming back here. So doing fashion events and really debuting your collection in a formal way is more marketing than anything else.
There's only one reason to do a fashion show, and that's if there is a buyer in the audience.
It's getting people to see your stuff. It's getting people to talk about you. It's getting other people to engage with it.
If you're just doing a fashion show for a bunch of friends and acquaintances, I just don't get it. Why? You just end up with a load of clothes with makeup on and no sales. Doing those types of things usually means that they might be caught up in their own ego.
It was a nice sunny day in LA. It was good to be outside. It was good to catch up with a lot of people. In fact, I was just recounting today how many lunch dates I have to set up now after catching up with all my network. So the event was really good. We did make some sales. There were some people that bought stuff, immediately pre-ordered stuff. Obviously the samples are being shown, so there's no actual product yet, but they paid money for me to, produce the product. So that was really good. And already have had some blog write-ups about it because I've gotten some really good press in general this week. And it was a good event. So a lot of my designs I tailor towards actual women wearing them. Models are great. I love my models. But I also recognize the reality of the people that are wearing my dresses are real women. So a lot of my designs are made to camouflage typical problem areas for women. A lot of my dresses with the higher waistlines hide a little bit of a belly. The silhouette lends to, not showing off, your hips or things like that. So I try to make it so that women are not only physically comfortable in my clothes, but also mentally comfortable in my clothes. And they're not feeling self-conscious. They're not feeling vulnerable in any way when wearing my stuff.
Trends are so diverse now. So it's not like in the new Dior in the 50s. Everybody had to have a Dior skirt, and then you've got the 60s with the mini skirt, then you've got the sort of 70s hippies look, then the 80s. You could identify with these trends. The 80s with the wide shoulders, and then the 90s, things started to get more confused. And then now we've got the fact that we can wear whatever we want.
The 60s for me is the mod. It's the minimalistic, the really stark, lines, I guess the mini skirts at that point, the twiggy and the coats, and all of that. So the stereotypical 50s imagery for me is the high-waisted skirts, the natural waistline, the fullness of the skirts, the richness of the fabrics, the quality of the construction. I mean, it was a level that we don't see in our culture nowadays. Even women that stayed at home all day long had so much respect for themselves and the lives they were living that they got dressed every day, and looked impeccable every day, even if they didn't leave the house. Why can't we still do that? Have some respect for yourself. Get up, get dressed, take your pajamas off, and even if you work from home, it's still a worthy mentality to have. The thing about the 20s that I liked was it was just kind of such a carefree era. They were starting to get away from having to wear all of the huge amounts of clothes. Women were cutting off their hair. They were wearing these boxy dresses. I don't know. There was just a certain flow to the 20s it looked fun and beautiful and feminine. I even like the 70s, the deep cut V's and the way that the clothes hung on the body and women kind of getting away from the femininity and getting to dress more like men, which, while it's not the aesthetic of my brand, it still was an exciting time in history. I am designing things that haven't necessarily been celebrated in our culture in a really long time. I mean, for so long, women have tried to be like men. You know, you look back into the 70s and the 80s and even the 90s, and we had to dress like men in order to be taken seriously in the world. And now we're at a point where we can dress like women and not have to hide that in any setting. Really, you know, nowadays it's more about the marketing, more about selling the lifestyle, selling the perception of what the brand is, as opposed to actually selling the product. Most people nowadays don't care about the product. They care about the associations with the product. Oh, you bought that there? Oh, you got that? Oh, did you read her book? Oh, like, I mean, it literally has nothing to do with the fashion anymore. The majority of the positive feedback I get about my collection is that it's beautiful, it's stunning, it's classic. A lot of people have told me that the stuff I'm designing doesn't exist in the marketplace today, which I think might also feed into why I'm having such a hard time with it. I don't think that people truly understand my aesthetic yet because it is so different from what's happening right now. It's not the crop tops, it's not the showing the skin, it's not looking like trash, it's being a woman.
Quite often, young designers come in here thinking that what they have, that they've invented a new wheel in a lot of cases, and they're not flexible when you ask them if they will change shape, sleeve length, collar length, color.
You can tell right away whether or not you're going to see eye to eye with the designer. In your first meeting, you can see if you're coming at it from the same place.
There are some that come in and just say, hey, this is what I got, it's the best, and if you don't recognize it, I'll just take it somewhere else.
There needs to be a certain amount of compromise as long as it doesn't completely suck the life out of you.
New designers that I see is sometimes makes me speechless. Just to see that they have this passion and they have an idea that they feel so strongly about that it's sometimes very difficult to even communicate with them.
I'm in this weird middle space where no one will buy from me because I'm either too expensive or too cheap. And so I was like, I need to pick a side. I can't sit in this weird limbo place.
Right.
So I picked a side, and I picked to go towards more of the affordable luxury. Mm-hmm. And every buyer that came to me would look at every single thing I had and say, why is your stuff so priced so low?
Low? Well, why aren't they buying? Well, the common traits I see with new designers is naivety for the most part and lack of information about the industry and how brutal it is. They only have a focus on their own idea, so it's almost like being in a prison cell. They are locked in their own reality of creativity. If they don't know how they're going to get from A to Z, then it's going to be very likely they're going to get lost on the way and lose a lot of money.
So a lookbook is basically a document that you can give to a buyer or a press person that kind of just outlines and lays out the entire new collection just in one place. My typical lookbook shoots in the past have been around $1,000, which is pretty low. Financially, to be a fashion designer, unless you have backing, is tough. There's throwing events. If you're going to either throw an event or participate in an event, they're costly. I mean, doing a fashion show, a cheaper fashion show, can be upwards of $15,000.
In order for you to find a financial investor, it's far more important that you grow the company, that you know what you're doing, you get some orders, you show that there's an interest, and then maybe you will get some interest with financial investors. But for the most part, investors will not invest in your idea. It's just you're a dreamer.
In order to run a fashion business, I've never drawn a salary off my company. So, I've had to maintain a part-time job to just pay my personal bills.
Everybody we talk to, they say, you can't start a business under $250,000. Okay, people do, and some of them do become successful. But anything under $50,000, forget it. I would say that the average price of making a garment is, in samples, just developing it, is around $1,000. So you've got $1,000 to produce one item. What happens if you've got 10 items? This is just product development.
And then this dress was in a prior collection, but it had an empire waist. And so I basically just took the same patterns and, dropped the waist.
Yeah, you could still keep the skirt, you could have it a little shorter in the front, longer in the back, same body, so you're not having to recreate. Once you've got your line put together and you've decided which of the pieces, and you've developed the line, you've fitted it, you've decided which ones are going to go to the trade show, okay, so you decide which trade show you're going to go to. There's another $10,000 pop for the trade show.
I don't have the money behind me to get my marketing as strong as I'd like it to get my name out there. I'm just having to be, I guess, more creative about how I build my name and how I build my brand, because I don't have that financial security that some other people in the fashion industry may have.
Well, it is a cruel and challenging profession, and these people who come in with great expectations and with a bank balance, for the most part, you will see them maybe 2 or 3 years later with a minus bank account and disheveled hair, red eyes, and their ego has been certainly degenerated.
Since the installation show, I got a lot of really good press. I got on the cover of Apparel News. I was featured in Women's Wear Daily. I was on Racked LA. I got a ton of bloggers to write about me. So things in those areas are progressing very well. There's still some areas that I'm very frustrated with.
Well, Bree got a lot of recognition on her product because she is a good designer. I think that Bree's probably misconception was that she was in a niche that was too high-end. And the high-end market is a very small niche. And there are not many people willing to go and spend $700 on a jacket. So I think that the niche she chose was not probably a niche where she's going to be immediately successful. And there are a lot of high-end designers out there who are struggling. Couture clothing that you see on the red carpet, most of those garments have been given to the people to wear, the actors and actresses and whoever. For the most part, any LA designers who's lucky enough to get onto the red carpet, the ones I know, they're all broke. So the couturiers, their market niche is so narrow and so very difficult. It's a very, very tough industry. Very tough.
Despite all the press and the publicity and all the good things that I've been getting, I'm still struggling a lot with sales. And I'm still struggling a lot with getting buyers to pay attention to me. The buyers don't necessarily care. You call, you email, you call again, you email again, you call again. You can't get through to them. They don't want to hear from you. They don't respond to you. It's frustrating. I feel like I'm being lumped into this category with all these other emerging designers.
For an emerging designer right now, I got to tell you, it's very difficult.
There's not as many opportunities for young designers to break in and become the next brand. The industry is controlled now by large conglomerates. There are less and less independent boutiques throughout the United States, and because of that, that's, again, that many less opportunities to meet with someone to get your product into their stores.
Now is particularly difficult with what's going on with the global economy, what's going on with the retailers, what's going on with the consumers. It is a very, very difficult time for people to launch a new line.
This is my new collection, the Crystals collection. If there's any pieces that spoke to you, if you're obsessed with any of them, you need them today, you can actually pre-order them if you wish, and enjoy yourselves, and thank you all for coming.
I think that you'll see that people who are successful, they need to identify a niche, they need to be able to work hard and creativity, and of course there's luck as well.
For the past 3 or 4 years, I've been just pushing this fashion design thing. Just, all day, every day, over and over again. And for whatever reason, I keep hitting walls. And, I got to a point this week where I'm sick of hitting walls. I'm tired. My energy's depleted. My soul's depleted. I'm having a really hard time getting out of bed in the morning because something's not working.
It's painful sometimes when you see somebody that you know has a lot of talent who can't quite hang on, who can't quite make the compromises that may be necessary in order to get them to that next place where they can show the world their, their full regalia, really let the butterfly wings stretch and show all of the colors. Not everybody gets their moment.
So I guess, my biggest frustration right now is that I know I have the skills. I know I have the product, the quality product. I know I have the vision. I know I have all these things. I have the ability to reach a larger audience. But the biggest thing, I guess, that I'm missing right now is sales. And as a business owner, you can't have a business without having sales because at some point the money runs out. I decided that I'd had enough of my old studio. The lack of windows, the lack of sunlight, the extreme negative energy that was in the room there, I just had to get out. So I did. Leaving the fashion district was a little bit of an ego blow. Struggled with it a little bit just in that, when you meet someone here, you're like, oh, I'm a fashion designer. And they're like, oh, are you in the fashion district? That's the first question. And I used to be able to say, yeah, I'm so exciting. It's so glamorous. It's all these things, blah, 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 that everyone thinks it is. And now I'm not there anymore. And so I've definitely had a few, well, does that make me a failure now? Is not being in the fashion district mean that I'm not as viable or as serious of a fashion designer or, whatever. But underneath all of that, there was a reason that I had to leave at this time in my life. And I really just needed to step back and not be there every day. So this is my new space. I love that it has sunlight. I get to see palm trees and blue skies all the time when I'm in here. I get fresh air because I can open the windows, and it's just a lot lighter and brighter. I like it. It's what I needed.
Bree Seeley always impressed me as being somebody who was focused on a very interesting concept. She's very creative, and she struck me as being quite business-minded and serious and willing to work very hard. So I don't think Bree yet has managed to find the luck aspect.
Being a fashion designer has absolutely very little, I won't say nothing, it's close to nothing, very, very little to do with how good you are at your talent.
Lead me to a swanky place.
So the Phoenix Fashion Week competition actually ends with a big fashion show where each of the 12 emerging designers gets an opportunity to show their line on a professional runway. So Phoenix Fashion Week, to win the competition, was actually based on a point system. The winner ended up being Bree Seeley.
She had an amazing collection. Her line that she produced was very sellable. It was extremely cohesive, super elegant, and it was just a beautiful show that she put on the runway.
I've never been able to break through to buyers. Being an emerging designer in magic, you know, all these things, being the winner of Phoenix Fashion Week, all these like great things that have happened to me, no one has cared, ever.
Some buyers don't really care about any kind of awards. It's meaningless to some degree. It's great for the ego of the designer, don't get me wrong, and it's nice to be able to say it as part of the presentation, but at the end of the day it doesn't hold any weight, in my estimation, to whether or not a buyer will buy a line.
So, you know, I felt like I was running on this vicious hamster wheel. You know, salespeople don't want to hear from me because I don't have a showroom. Showrooms don't want to rep me because I don't have any sales. I have tried every single route that you're supposed to try, that's supposed to work, and it doesn't. It hasn't. So maybe other people can do it without money. I can't. 2 weeks ago, I had $40 in my checking account.
I would say the longevity of most designers that we unfortunately, sad to say, I would say that probably about 95% won't make it.
I can't just keep like hitting my head against a brick wall and having nothing come out of it. It's exhausting, and it's not how I want to live my life.
It's a very interesting industry in that there are people that are very successful, and part of that comes from timing, part of that comes from luck, part of that comes from their persistence.
I think she'll just pick herself up and move on and go on to and do another one. I think she will have learnt a lot.
I have many times encouraged people who hadn't quite hit their stride yet, especially when I knew that the real talent was there and that the real fire was there.
You know, there are very few people that really make it big. There are fewer people who make it big quickly.
By no means am I giving up fashion. I feel like I'm scaling my fashion back slightly so that I can take this different path towards it. You know, maybe the path that I'm supposed to take isn't necessarily the straight, direct route that I had envisioned in my head. I've kind of rebranded myself as an entrepreneur for all things women. So in addition to doing women's fashion, I now have also written a women's coffee table book filled with 99 interviews with women around the world. I'm also in the process of launching this women's movement in conjunction with the coffee table book that will include a launch party in Los Angeles and then a 10-city tour. By not focusing on fashion, by not hitting it, by not pushing it, by not doing these things, everything has just started coming together. I have seen an increase in press placements. I have a publicist. I have a showroom. I mean, everything in my fashion arena has kind of increased. It's been a year of highs and lows. I can't say that it's been pleasant. Quitting was never an option. You know, I mentally entertain it periodically here and there. But I had a girlfriend sit me down 2 years ago and I said something about quitting and she looked at me and she goes, you know, that's not you. That's not your life. That's not an option. Like, it's just not. I jokingly have it on the table as a choice, but it is never actually really truly on the table as a choice. Quitting's never. I wouldn't have a reason to live if I didn't do what I do.